Welcome to DOS1 Hunt. I'm Jean-Pierre Ruth for Information Week. And in this episode, we'll be taking a look at whether or not DevAIOps and AIOps have been kind of forgotten in the ongoing, I don't know if we can call it a surge anymore, the ongoing wave of attention that AI continues to get. Oftentimes, we will see headlines being made as soon as there's some kind of new iteration of some kind of consumer-facing element of AI that kind of gets into the mix. But there are other ways that AI can be part of operations within enterprises, particularly on the IT and development side in different ways. And as organizations are, possibly, looking for ways, scrambling for ways that they're going to try to make use of this resource, wanted to speak to some experts about, what are some of the things that might be potentially unsung heroes that are of ways that AI is being made use of that might not get the attention that some of the other aspects of AI are making headlines with. So for this episode, we'll be speaking with Camden Swita, Head of AI and Machine Learning Innovation with New Relic, Efrain Ruh, CTO for Europe with Digitate, and Paul Davis, Field CISO with JFrog. Gentlemen, thank you all for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
All right. And for those who are listening, I apologize for the slight bit of congestion as somebody got a little bit of the case of the plague last week and is recovering still. But thankfully, since I'm remote, I cannot spread it to anyone else. Okay, so let's get rolling. So let's kind of like start off with, I guess, the top of the topic. Camden, I'm hoping you can kind of like help with this one. How much of a game changer has AI been for AIOps or AIOps or DevOps from a kind of like a big picture perspective? And when it comes to like trying to show results of what AI innovations have been able to kind of like really kind of deliver on in those areas, has it moved the needle much or not that much in those spaces?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I'll start off by saying, I think AI, or more specifically, recent leaps forward with certain types of AI, generative AI, most notably, have the potential to be a force multiplier in DevOps and in IT operations or AI ops. Because they're dramatically or have the potential to dramatically enhance the efficiency and capabilities of these engineers. In particular, helping with automating formerly routine but somewhat complex tasks, automating research processes, or of course, automating the update or generation of new code, or whatever it is. And I think, and on the one hand, we're starting to see results with some of the fundamentals of that, especially when it comes to code writing, code updating, making commits, the various co-pilots and whatnot. And then I think on the other end, where I think we'll really start to see the biggest results when you start talking about auto remediation or self-healing systems, I really believe that all of that is on the horizon and probably not as far off as we think it is. But of course, it's going to take us a little while to get there. And so when you look at code writing, for example, I do think engineering teams are starting to see concrete and even significant, enhancements to their efficiency. But when it comes to maybe auto remediation, auto root cause analysis, I think we're just starting to scratch the surface there, and you'll start to see a lot more companies getting their solutions to production over the next year or two. And then we'll see, what kind of effect that will have on efficiency, particularly in IT operations.
Great. Thank you very much for that. Efrain, as many organizations, many enterprises kind of, look for their ways, what they hope are going to be the optimal ways to leverage AI. Again, there's the kind of the very, flashy ways that they're trying to present to consumers, clients, what have you, about what they're doing with AI. But does AI make really more of a natural fit for what it can do and provide on the IT side of things within organizations, be it for the development cycle or other aspects of the operations that are really behind the curtain that aren't as front facing as people might expect?
Yeah. Great question. As in my experience, where we see AI has more natural fit is in the IT operations side. The reason this is as an area where we basically confronting, analyzing very large volumes of telemetry data, where we need to extract patterns, identify hidden dependencies, where we have to leverage whatever, supervised, unsupervised machine learning, like data rich and shaping, and basically what it takes us to the whole automation and efficiency. I think, but what you were discussing before, AIOps, we're being able to really optimize operations. Just simple use case like event management, for example, reducing anomaly and noise that then relieves a lot of efforts on the operational teams, just for one. And then if you move into the complete closing the cycle with self-filling, then you also give improvements for the business, for the IT teams in terms of reducing MTTR and maintaining those systems up and running with a higher availability.
Great, thank you very much for that. Paul, how does the evolution of AI really kind of influence, the world, the trajectory that we're seeing with AI? How does that really affect, things like AIOps, DevAIOps, or even DevSecOps, for that matter?
So that's a lot of fun. It's kind of interesting because when you brought this subject up, AIOps is, as was being talked about, is applying artificial intelligence or models to allow us to identify events, right? In the world of managing infrastructure, whether it's security events or servers or trending, that sort of thing. I think it's brilliant. From the perspective of dev, that's a different world, which is how are developers leveraging or looking to leverage, as Camden indicated, about, in the world of software code development and stuff like that, and we're emerging. But as I considered what you were considering, I also then realized that there is an inherent connection between the world of AI and DevOps and then infrastructure, because the actual life cycle for developing models in production is very different in some respects. We develop a piece of software, push it out there. With AI, we have to retrain the models. And one of the things I'm wrestling with at the moment is data retention policies, whether it's in Europe or America. We're only supposed to keep data, and I see people smiling, my colleagues smiling on this one. How do we handle data retention policy? They're saying get rid of 7 years, don't have more than 7 years worth of data, for example, but at the same time enable AI. And that conundrum of how in infrastructure, you've got to build out models to handle this new world of machine learns, whether it's model as a service or containerized things like that, with this new kind of model of, hey, I want to retrain the device, retrain the model on a regular basis, make sure we're monitoring. And we have to monitor it not just from the perspective of whether it's up, but is it developing bias? Is it going wrong? Those sort of things. And is it starting to consume too many resources? So it's really complicated. So from the world of, I think this is a huge change agent catalyst for us. That means, guess what? We're going to have to learn new ways of doing things. So developers, their whole life is going to shift in the next 5 years about how they develop code. I'm not ready to trust code development with AI. I mean, a tool, oversight, humans, still need the brain. And then infrastructure is fascinating. So long answer, but it's sort of, you got me fascinated when you brought this up. I was like, wow, okay.
I'm definitely glad to hear that in terms of your interest in the topic. Awesome. Listen, thank you for your insight just then, and all of you, thank you for your individual insights. So let's get into the this open discussion on this for each of you, for all of you. Does it make more sense to try and focus some of the attention that we're talking about with AI on the idea of the efficiencies and benefits that some of you already just brought up in their respective spaces, rather than and the media is guilty of this very much, the idea of chasing these shiny new ideas that kind of like, yippee, look what just popped out of the Jack in the Box from AI this week. Part of me looks at some of these things that pop up with AI, and I'm admittedly a curmudgeon when it comes to AI, but sometimes I'm like, okay, am I just talking about the latest model of iPhone now? Versus, what's real and substantial. I mean, I want to try to get understanding, like, should we kind of like be championing the things like AIOps, DevAIOps, as the sleeper hits behind the scenes for AI?
Wow. I mean, from my perspective, yes, the shiny toy syndrome. We have this. I'm a security person, so I spend my time managing my paranoia. Okay, so you bring up a new shiny toy, I'm going to worry about retention, data, efficiencies, predictability, reliability. But at the same time, with that tech debt as well, we're also forced to be innovate all the time. And AI is a huge enabler. I mean, the ramp up path of this thing is just amazing in the adoption. I think it's kind of something there, but I think sometimes we run too fast and we're going to fall over, right? And I think we have to sort of step back and take a breath and put a framework. I think we've let it out and it's running around. And now we're catching up with it and now having to put the controls in place. You know what I mean? I don't know what others think about that.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about. On the other hand, I wonder sometimes too, the cat's out of the bag. I wonder if it's even possible anymore to really put adequate controls around model development, research in that area, particularly when you consider that, across nations, there would need to be some agreement on abiding by these research principles when it comes to, AI development. I think where I do see there'll probably be some slowdown is the availability and accessibility of training data and the expense of accessing it, right? As more organizations sort of realize like, oh, my data was just sort of hanging out there online for, name your big foundational large language model developer to scrape and train with. Maybe I should lock that down and make them pay for it. I do think we'll see these foundational model developers needing to either foot more of a bill for that data or need to get more creative. I think this is where there's a lot of opportunity for smaller models to really kind of start to come to the forefront, right? I sort of look at the latest and greatest foundational language models, and this sort of relates to chasing the shiniest thing. A new one comes out, and it's almost like a cheat code for doing certain things because it's such a step forward in just its like reasoning capability and it's like seeming humanness, right? But ultimately, you sort of realize that there's this similar constraints as the last one, and it's not a magic box and that sort of thing. But then when you think, well, maybe that'll slow down a little bit because of data access issues, and they can't just scrape the internet. Or we'll see what GPT-5 can do, though. I imagine it'll be kind of scary. But anyway, the point is that if you can start thinking about these things in terms of smaller, more specialized models, whether they're language models or otherwise, and those working in concert together, I think that's actually where we'll start to see some of the more interesting breakthroughs. And I think for those of us that are focused on developing those smaller specialist models and orchestrating them, those are the people that are maybe chasing the shiny things a little bit less and actually kind of up to their elbows in these problems and figuring out how to actually make this stuff do really valuable work. So yeah, I imagine that when it comes to overriding controls in this space, it'll be difficult, but we'll see a slowdown just due to data availability, and we'll need to start thinking more models that are smaller, doing more together, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with the panel. I'm pretty short. I mean, of course, you always have this need of basically chasing the new things, especially when you're in a product organization. You don't want to miss the bus, be left behind. Just tell you from our own experience, we've been in this AIOps market for almost 10 years, and we've been using conventional AI for a very long time. And last year came out Gen AI, and everyone started asking, we need to play Gen AI, we need to play Gen AI. And it's still, today it's still an AIOps part. It's not very clear what are the use cases that actually are gonna give that breakthrough. So I believe you have to have a balance. We cannot drop everything that we have done already conventional AI and start moving everything to Gen AI, for example, just to give you one simple example. But we have to look at these shiny things, but then still, like Camden was saying, that we need to still focus on optimizing what we have.
To listen to the entire conversation, look for the DOS 100 podcast on Spreaker, Spotify, Amazon Music, and other popular podcast platforms.